Good afternoon, dear participants. You all are welcome to our 14th webinar organized by the Sri Lanka Export Development Board. Today we are going to discuss on another important topic. Really it is interesting for the export community and especially the potential exporters who are working and starting to do their export business and turning from local business to the international business. This is a thrust of the thirst of business community, means finding overseas buyers. And today we are having eminent resource personnel from Department of Commerce, Mr. Charitha Yattogoda. He is working as the director of the Trade Promotion Division of the same department. And he is really oversees Sri Lanka's commercial trade representations abroad, spanning over 28 commercially important countries. In addition, Charitha has the diverse experience in international trade as the Consul General of Sri Lanka to Dubai, Northern Emirates in the United Arab Emirates. And as a commercial diplomat, he served in Sri Lanka's foreign mission in Korea. And as a minister, counselor, commercial in Myanmar, and first secretary commercial in France. Let me to introduce and about his academic background. Mr. Charitha graduated the second class degree in Bachelor of Science, specialized in economics from the University of Peradeniya. He obtained his master's arts degree in economics from the University of Colombo. And further, he obtained his postgraduate diploma in trade policy at the World Trade Organization, Geneva, and dynamic economic diplomacy for Sri Lanka offered by the Harvard University, USA. Additionally, he is a part of Qualified Chartered Institute of Management Accountant, UK, and presently he is reading for his PhD degree in economics. Additionally, he is also expert in bilateral, regional, and multilateral cooperations, WTO FIRs, trade policy, and overseas and trade promotion. So after this brief introduction, I like to notify our participants after this the session, Q&A session will be started once Charitha completed his presentation. And you can use the Q&A session in your window, the bottom of the window, to type your questions, and we will take those relevant questions to answer with the resource person today. So without having much time, I invite Mr. Charitha to start his presentation. Mr. Charitha, it is over to you.
Thank you, Kirti, and good afternoon to all of you. In fact, as we all know, for any country, foreign exchange is a vital component in its development. If you look at Sri Lanka, there are four main ways that we earn foreign exchange. Number one is through the exports, which we have earned about little more than 11 billion US dollars in year 2019. And secondly, from the foreign remittances, and thirdly, from the tourism, and fourthly, from inward foreign direct investments. So out of these four exports, Sri Lanka's exports have been playing an immense role in the development of country, having earned more than 11 billion US dollars last year. So while appreciating the important role that the exporters have been playing in Sri Lanka's forward march towards the prosperity, let me begin my presentation by saying that, in fact, we know that everywhere in the world, there are a lot of importers who have been looking for correct products to be imported, whereas there are a lot of exporters who are looking for meeting buyers, but matching these two interests would be the challenge that they all have. So let me start my presentation briefly outlining uh, uh, under seven main categories. So I would like to first mention as number one, when the exporter has to select products of export interest to start with. Secondly, to assess overseas market potential for the identified product or the products. Then as a third step, it is required to analyze whether the identified products having any preferential market access in foreign markets. And as a fourth point, I should touch upon assess the export readiness of the exporter. And as number five, I wanted to look at assess whether the identified products could meet required quality and safety standards stipulated in the identified potential overseas market. As a sixth step, I would like to look at as how to obtain required details related to local stakeholders or local requirements in relation to exporting the identified product or products. As a last step, I would like to mention about as how to reach out to potential buyers for the identified products in the selected potential overseas markets in commencing exports. So let me start my presentation with the first area, which is a select product or products of export interest. Selecting exportable product is a very challenging task, and I would say that the exporter must keep in mind various things, including the following. Particularly, the exporter has to look at the trends in exports. You know that exports is a very dynamic field, so that it changes day to day. So that we have to look at what are the trends that applies into exports when select the product. And apart from that, product adaptability is also very important. So the particular product must be able to adapt to the market standards and can adapt to the situation. And there are trade restrictions in places, so that when there are trade restrictions in place, we have to look at whether the product that we identify will have some restriction in some countries, so that it be a problem in exporting. Then we have to look at shifting spending patterns of the consumers also as another area. And also we have to look at production capacity of the product, and also the product availability in the market, and also demand in the potential export market. Then incentives or the facilities offered by the government, as well as quality and niche marketing in the selected product. So these are some of the areas that I think exporters should pay attention to in selecting a product or products for export interest. As a second area, we have to assess, the exporter has to assess overseas market potentials for the identified product or the products. Particularly, after selecting that product, we have to look at imports in the potential market. Say if you are looking at one country, say for an example, India, we have to look at what is the amount of imports that India is importing on that product, so that we know what is the potential in that market. Not only Sri Lanka's import, we can look at from other countries as well the same product, the amount that they import. Apart from that, we have to look at the tariff structure. So what type of import duties that the exporter, or rather when the products comes into market, what type of tariff that has to be paid at the border. That's also another important factor. In addition to that, apart from tariff, there are a lot of other uh, duties and charges. We call other duties and charges. We call para tariff. So we have to look at what are the applicable para tariffs on that particular product, and then we have to look at, apart from these things, there are some sanitary and phytosanitary requirements which are in place mainly to protect human, animal, and plant health. So we have to look at whether the selected products having any sort of SPS measures that are in place in the particular country. Apart from that, there are some technical barriers also, which some countries having some measures related to environmental protection, public safety, national security, etc. So we call broadly those are TBT measures, or technical barriers to trade. So we have to look at what are these requirements. Maybe there are some specific labeling requirements, so on. There are a lot of other technical requirements that particular country is having. So we have to look at whether the selected product having such requirement to fulfill in those identified market or markets. Now, without going to anybody else, you yourself can obtain those related details by visiting these websites. Particularly, number one is a very famous site called TradeMap. So we can find out value and the quantity of the targeted market that imports of that particular product, as well as the imports from the competitors. And you must know, to find out that information, you must know HS code of the particular product. Like it is our name. We have our first, second, and third name to exactly identify the person, as same as in any custom in the world. We call it harmonized system. The World Custom Organization has introduced with some digits to identify products. So we have to find out the identified product of you having what is the HS code that product is into, so that through that HS code we can find out by visiting the trade map the value and the quantity of imports by from Sri Lanka or from all other competitors. So this is the website called TradeMap that you can visit to find out these details. Secondly, you can visit Market Access Map to find out what are the applicable tariffs on this particular item that you have selected. Apart from the border tariffs that are applied on, there are a lot of other duties and charges might apply. So you can find out what are those other duties and charges that will be applicable. On top of that, what are the measures like non-tariff measures such as SPS, TBT, or what you call sanitary or phytosanitary measures. All these things can be find out through this website, so that beforehand. So what are the requirements, quality requirements that you have to fulfill?
Mr. Charita, small interruption. Sorry.
Yeah.
Are you ready to share the presentation? We cannot see the presentation.
Cannot see that?
No, we cannot see the presentation.
1 minute, please. So I was under the impression is. Can you?
Yes.
Sorry. Can you?
Yes, now we can see the presentation. Yes. Okay. Go ahead, please.
Sorry, I was under the impression that the presentation is sharing. So sorry for the inconvenience. I think now you can, 1 minute, please. So this is the presentation slides that I was talking about, my outline of the presentation. Then I have gone to the other slide of select products or products of export interest in this site, in this slide. Then I have gone to the other area called assess overseas market potential for the identified product or products. So these are the broad areas that I was talking about. As the next step, now I'm in this slide, and I was mentioning about how to obtain related details. And under number one, you can look at this trade map, where we can find out the details by visiting the trade map of the value and the quantity of the imports of this selected product that you are interested in, as well as the competitors' details in relation to value and the quantity. As number two, that you can visit the market access map to find out applicable tariff on the product or the products that you wanted to export, and as well as para tariff, all other duties and charges, and sanitary and phytosanitary measures, and the technical barriers having in that particular market in related to the products that you have selected. Then as a third step, the exporter should look at whether the identified products of export interest having any preferential market access in the foreign market. If you look at Sri Lanka, we broadly having bilateral free trade agreements and regional trade agreements, as well as global and multilateral. And if you look at the bilateral level, so we entered with few free trade agreements, namely with India, then with Pakistan, as well as Singapore. And there are some other under negotiation we might finalize in the future, but these are the ones we have already entered into. So we, when somebody is looking at exports, be mindful that we have a FTA with India, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka at the moment. On top of that, we are a member of Asia Pacific Trade Agreement together with Bangladesh, China, India, Laos, and South Korea. So these are the countries also of interest that we might have a possibility of exporting products at a concessionary rate. Whereas we are a member of SAFTA, where Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Maldives, Nepal, and Pakistan are members of. So we have a market access towards those countries also at a concession rate or at duty free. These are the regional ones. If you look at the global and the multilateral ones, we one called general GSP, commonly known as GSP, which is called Generalized System of Preferences. We have this is not a sort of a trade agreement, but a trade concession that was granted towards the developing countries. We are enjoying this concession without reciprocating any other concession from our side, so that there are a number of countries offers these duty concessions for us to export those products. EU GSP Plus is a famous one that we are enjoying a lot of concessions with, and we have concessions with US, and that's another one called GSTP, which we are benefiting under. So it's let me mention about the countries under the GSP donors: USA, Australia, Japan, Turkey, New Zealand, Russia, Canada, Switzerland, Norway, and EU countries, 28 countries of EU under the GSP Plus that we are enjoying duty concessions with. You can see the name of the countries down there under the EU that we entail special duty concessions when exporting. So these are the trade agreements that we are entered with, or that we consider that we enjoy. So it's very important one to look at whether the selected country that or rather the prospective country that we select having any sort of duty concessions that that we can exporter can export to. In that case, in some of these free trade agreements, we have the ability to export products without paying any custom duty, whereas in some case, there's a certain percentage that we have to pay. But the advantage of having a free trade agreement or a preferential trade agreement is that even though our cost is high compared to some other country, uh, because of this special duty concessions, will be able to export, or rather landing costs of the product of ours would be lesser than some other country having applied same the normal level of duty when they export into the country that we are looking at. So we have special advantages because of that, and we have to look at the countries carefully to see whether it benefits under any trade agreement, as you see what are the conditions that we can get. And I have to mention you that if you look at the trade statistics of 2019, now out of the total exports of Sri Lanka, 65% of Sri Lanka's exports have gone to the countries having special duty regimes, like through FTAs or other preferential trading agreements. So it shows the important role that these tools have been playing, particularly when it comes to exports. Uh, then, when you look at that particular countries uh, offering any duty concession under any agreement, we have to check uh, those list of items. There are two different ways that we have to look at. One called positive list. In case of some of the agreements, we have to look at the list of items which uh, which are which are the items that offers duty concession, whereas in the other way that we call a negative list, in the sense that the items which is beyond those negative lists enjoys the duty concession. So that we must be able to know how to look at these items so that we can find out after identified that particular country is eligible for some of the agreements obtaining duty consent. You have to look at particular items thereafter. So then you have to look at your item. The selected item is within this positive or negative list, as you see whether it is eligible to obtain duty concession in exporting to the country. After having these two things you have to look at like having that country entering into any free trade or professional trade agreement with Sri Lanka, and the product that you have selected is, even though having special duty concessions to export to that particular country, you can't do it automatically. So in order to obtain duty concessions, that product must be able to meet rules of origin criteria under the given agreement. So the Department of Commerce, which issues those certificate of origin, after satisfied with the criteria, with fulfilling the criteria under the rules of origin, so that there are three main criteria that applies. And number one, we call wholly produced or obtained. This applies mainly to products like agricultural products. Now, these products has to be fully wholly obtained, or rather uh, uh, cultivated in Sri Lanka, so that these items are qualified under those agreement. Secondly, we have to look at this transformation. We call it substantial transformation, whether the product is transformation enough as per the agreement to qualify in obtaining the duty concessions. And the third rule is called product specific rules. Certain products having certain rules specified based on the negotiations that we entered with the other party. So we have to look at whether that particular product meet that criteria. So having fulfilled all these criteria, then the Department of Commerce will issue certificate of origin for the products of export interest, so that the exporter will be able to enjoy duty concession in the particular market in exporting those selected items. Then after looking at that, then we have to look at, or rather we have to assess the export readiness of the exporter. You know that an export ready business is one that has the capacity, resources and management to deliver a marketable product or service global at a global scale at a competitive price. So that is all about the export readiness. So we have to look at uh, first of all, whether is your business established in the domestic market well. You have to look at, does exporting is part of your corporate goals. It cannot be a random decision. It has to be a well thought decision and part of your goal. Are you either a patent and trademark registered if it is applicable in your business? Then do you have space capacity to attend an export initiative? Then do you and or someone within the business have international business experience? Apart from that, is there someone available who could be made responsible for implementing the export initiatives? Does your business have functional accounting and administrative systems? Is there someone who can ensure that export sales are adequately serviced? Is there someone available within the business who could read, write, and speak a foreign language? Are you willing to change your key products, features, example product specifications and packaging in order to meet the requirements of an export market? Are you willing and or able to contract extra staff and or acquire skills and or implement procedures in those cases where your business falls short? These are some of the areas that you have to look at by yourself to check your export readiness. And I reckon Export Development Board is the best place that you can visit and to meet relevant officers as to see whether you are ready to export, or rather you meet the criteria of export readiness. Apart from what I have mentioned here, please be mindful that when you're ready to export, you must have a comprehensive company profile printed in the brochures, and if possible to have a comprehensive website with your details, so that you can impress upon the importers. And you must have good packaging and a lot of things that needed to meet the importers requirement. So that's also part of the export readiness. So before starting export, you must make sure that you are ready to export, or you meet or you pass the test of export readiness. Then as the fifth step, you have to assess whether the identified product or products could meet required quality and safety standards stipulated in the identified potential overseas markets. You know, there are a lot of compulsory or rather mandatory quality and safety standards required by importing countries, particularly if you export to Europe and developed countries like Australia, US and all. They have very strict compliance on mandatory quality requirements, out of which sanitary and phytosanitary measures are very important one, that you have to look at whether your product whether the product that you have selected or interested in having meet the criteria of these sanitary and phytosanitary measures, as well as safety standards imposed to protect the environment, public health and national security. You have to check I told you as how you can gather this information. You have to check and see whether the selected product will meet this criteria. In addition to that, if you have some voluntary stands which are not mandatory, but having offering you a better edge over the other exports, such as organic or fair trade certifications, which are not compulsory or rather mandatory requirement, but still it gives you an added advantage in exporting all the other exporters. So the importers look at this is a product of good quality, having complied with all standard, is the idea. And after obtaining, then after fulfilling these details mentioned up to the 5 steps, then we have to obtain required details related to local stakeholders, local requirements in relation to exporting those identified product or products. You know that there are local requirements also needed to be fulfilled. There are a lot of details related to the local requirements, or rather local exporter might meet when export. So the Department of Commerce has launched Sri Lanka Trade Information Portal to provide information related to export process, which is having details uh, over 43 organizations in Sri Lanka, which you can visit to that particular website and get all related details at your convenience to find out related to your product of interest, so that you visit and see the related details carefully. Then you know where you really stand, and if there's anything that you are short to, you can fulfill that requirement. So let me briefly mention details about trade import uh, trade information portal. Uh, is a that's website having all details related to import and export goods. Uh, it's a comprehensive website that you can visit. Uh, it contains details, or rather measures such as license, permits, inspections, prohibitions, restrictions, certificates, registration, etc. And the legal documents related to measures such as laws, rules, regulations, acts, circulars, and so on. And procedures to be followed to comply with measures, and then forms needed for comply with measures. So I think this is a very important tool that exporters should use in finding details uh, related to the exports. Then, as a next step, and the next and the most important step, is how to reach out for potential buyers for identified products in the selected potential overseas markets in commencing exports. After fulfilling the previous 6 steps I have mentioned, then you have come to the most important part, as how to reach out for potential buyers for identified products. There are different types of market entry possibilities exist uh, in overseas markets. So I'm going to briefly touch upon in my following 2 slides what are the different types of market entry possibilities that an exporter will be having when wanted to export to overseas market. So there are different arrangements, as I said. One way would be appoint an agent of an exporter. So the exporter can appoint an agent in the overseas market. So you can see how it works briefly. In that case, the agent is exporter's representative. An agent does not own goods but takes commission uh, of the sales. The advantage of this arrangement would be often no payment until sales are made, but disadvantage would be agent may have competing interests or may not perform can be difficult to end arrangement once entered into. And the second way would be appoint a distributor. Now it works. The distributor imports goods and owns them from that point. Also, arrange distribution and marketing by himself, a distributor. So the advantage of this would be exporter is paid on delivery of goods to distributor. The distributor often has system and staff uh, to sell. So that's the advantage. But disadvantage would be the distributor may have competing products and may not promote an exporter's products adequately, may not have national coverage, or rather having coverage over the country, or may only limit to certain areas of the country. The next way would be set up local company to manufacture or be a sales subsidiary. So in this case, the system works like the entity can be wholly owned or a joint venture with some partner. The advantage would be where exporter has majority control, they are in charge of that arrangement. So that works well when exporter has established buyer. So if the exporters are established buyer, so that works really well. But the disadvantage would be some countries do not permit foreign ownership 100%. Expensive to set up. This type of arrangement would be expensive always, but profits may not flow for some time. Lack of local knowledge, network be a barrier. So these are the disadvantages that we can face with. Fourth uh, uh, way would be sell directly to major customers, so that the end customer, this works as the end customer, such as a large retailer or imports directly. So that's how it works. The end customer will import directly. The advantage would be works well when few end users or with bulk commodities, no middle person involved, so that you don't have to pay a middleman. The disadvantage would be there is nobody to take exporter's side in resolving local issues. Usually, no long-term commitment in such arrangements. And the fifth way of arrangement is acquire a local business, so that buying business is a shortcut to setting up a local company. In this case, the advantage would be exporter can get premises, distribution systems, staff, storage, etc. Good for services. This is a good arrangement for services. The disadvantage would be culture of acquired company may not fit. Exporter may inherit business liabilities. Requires careful due diligence if we to go to such arrangement. And another way of having that arrangement would be license technology or know-how. So in this case, technology or know-how is sold in return for fee or commission. Uh, uh, in this arrangement, the advantage would be low investment required. If it works well, the money keeps flowing in. But the disadvantage would be exporter could lose control of intellectual property, uh, good auditing, need to ensure export is paid correctly. There's another arrangement that we can think of. is setting up franchises, which is another common way of having these arrangements. So in this case, is a complete package is put together with branding, manuals and instructions. In return, fees are paid, some upfront and some as percentage of sales is the arrangement of this setup franchises. The advantages of having franchises would be can work well for service businesses. Franchises can own their own business and have strong interest in making it work well. And disadvantage would be business needs adaptive for different markets, languages and uh, standards, the disputes common. So good resolution mechanism required in such cases are the common disadvantage in setting up franchises. And another way of having this arrangement would be form a joint venture. Uh, in forming a joint venture, a new business is established with inputs from exporter and a local entity. So profits can be divided as agreed when entering into joint venture. The advantage of having a joint venture would be relatively low capital required. The exporter gets access to local networks and exerts some control. It's the advantage of this system. But the disadvantage would be exporter inherits local partners business image, which is fine, is a good image but difficult to uh, that's uh, uh, which is fine but is it is a good image but difficult if not, if the image is not good, then there's a problem. If the image if the importer's image is not good enough, it will have impact on the joint venture and the export that you are looking for. And as a last way of arrangement, we can look at sell online to consumers. So under this arrangement, product or services advertised online, so that orders taken online and products delivered by mail or via local warehouses or online for some services. The advantages in this system would be suitable for low value products such as books, electronics, clothing, toys, uses electronic payment systems like PayPal, WeChat, Alipay, etc. The disadvantages would be this involves many small transactions and lots of servicing. Can be hard in developing countries to register with large platforms, example like Amazon or eBay. So these two slides I have mentioned you as the main arrangements that we can enter when looking at the market entry possibility from the exporter's point of view. Then we will look into as how to link with preferred market entry in the foreign market. As I told you, the last two slides shows what are the main market entry possibilities uh, when exporter looking into export product identified in the particular market, and to enter into such arrangements we have to look at how it is possible to do, how we can do that, how to link, particularly how to link with preferred market entry in the foreign market. Out of all, the best way that we see is attending regularly on trade fairs and exhibitions held in foreign countries would be one of the very effective and successful ways. As you all know, all these major international trade fairs brings together a large group of players in a particular sector in one place at one time. As you all know, like like there are a lot of trade fairs happening all over the world. If you look at the food industry, there are some very famous ones happening in Europe, namely one called Anuga in Germany and one called Sial in Paris, and in Dubai you have another one uh, uh, which is taking care of the whole Middle East. The advantage of all this is the Dubai one called Gulf Food, and the advantage of such fairs is, so all stakeholders in that field used to come. Some take booths in these exhibitions, some visit those exhibitions, so that within a particular period of time they can meet all the stakeholders within that period, all different type of people, and that is the best way to meet prospective importers or the partners that you are looking for. So this is the most recommended and uh, uh, most recommended way of meeting required importers or other arrangements, market entry arrangements, and highly recommended for an exporter to continue. And the second way, we can look at the trade missions. This is visiting that particular market through trade missions. There are two main types of trade missions. One we call high-level trade missions, that our officers abroad used to organize high-level visits when the president, prime minister, or a government minister visit that particular country. With that, we arrange a high-level delegation so that exporters can join these delegations and be a part of this delegation, so that we can have meetings with their counterpart to link with required prospective importers, wholesalers, or so on. Then there's another trade mission we call business-led trade missions, generally led by trade chambers or trade associations. So that there's another way that we can visit the country with these trade chambers and to meet prospective importers or other players in the market based on these ways that you can enter into market. And as a third point, we can look at the group or individual business visits when the exporter now there's no better way than visiting the particular market to gain first-hand information as how the market works and what is the quality requirement in that market, and to meet all players in the market. So this is also another famous way of searching for these parties to work with. And then how to link with, there are other ways as how to link with preferred market entry in the foreign market. Then under that we can look at as a fourth way, test the market with retailers such as eBay, Amazon, and Etsy. So you know that these are very, very famous retailers that one can look at, what one can see whether their products can be sold via these famous ways. Then that's another way you can search these market and possibilities through Google for wholesalers and importers, and as well as you can search for wholesalers, importers through the business directories, famous business directories like Compass. Uh, so then you can find out their details through that, and you can contact the related chambers in those countries to find out who are the importers or the or other parties that are looking at, depending on your export interest, to find out to link up. Then you can find out research Facebook groups, and as the last one, you can contact our commercial representation abroad. They are there to help you to link up with these market players, depending on your interest. So to link with the preferred market entry in the foreign market is a very challenging task, so that there are so many ways that you can do. The last point I have mentioned here is contact Sri Lanka commercial representation abroad, and let me briefly touch upon that. Sri Lanka, we we have our trade representations in many countries. I can mention the list of the countries. You can you can contact these officers who are served in our embassies, high commissions, and consulate generals based in many countries. Uh, Let me mention the countries that our officers are serving. You can see in Australia, uh, Belgium, Brazil. In fact, we have our offices in 28 commercially important countries and 32 places, but in 28 countries. In some countries, we have several offices. In India, we have offices in 3 places, namely New Delhi, Jeddah, and Mumbai. Whereas in the US, we have in Washington as well as in Los Angeles. In London, we have 2 officers, and in Geneva also we have 2 officers. Whereas in other places we have 1 officer uh, uh, serving there as commercial representative, so that exporter can contact those officers concerned as to find out details about the market, and to find out the details of the importers or other wholesalers. Yeah, I have mentioned about that 9 ways that you can enter into those markets. So you can contact those officers, and you can visit our website also and find out details of each officer, so that if you even if you can contact me, I can give you further details about these officers. So you can find out not only about market entry requirements, the way that you can get the details of the importers and so on. You can obtain a lot of details, and that's the very purpose of station these officers in those countries. You all are welcome to contact our officers in those foreign countries to get the get serve your requirement. So they will be very happy to help you in expanding your export business. Um, these are these are the details I can mention, and I have mentioned you 7 steps, starting from up to finding starting from selecting the product up to finding a buyer. And you have to keep in mind, even after starting your exports into a particular country, you can't you can't rest still. You have to make sure that products will enhance in that market, or rather expand the business. And other important thing that you have to keep in mind is that in fact you have to be very careful in your payment modes also. There are various ways that the payments can be done, and always we advise always to have a secure way of having a proper payment system. The more appropriate one would be LCs, or rather letter of credit, so that your risk is minimum having such business. But still, depending on your requirements and depending on the importer's requirement, you can decide it. But you have to be very careful of your how you are going to get your payment back after exporting is another important thing. And providing a better service throughout, without spoiling your name is another important thing. We are sorry to note, sometimes we receive a lot of trade inquiry trade complaints, complaining about some exporters. Not everyone, but very few, from both sides, from Sri Lanka side as well as from some other countries also, complaining about us. So that we have to maintain good name is a very important thing, because it goes a long way because your reference of exporter or rather reference of the import of your goods will be another important way that you can attract uh, uh, importers elsewhere, because that goes a long way, because people believe those references, because importers normally do not give in these references without a purpose, so that if they do a good job, they always do that. So these are the details that we have to be very mindful of. And of course, as I told at the very beginning, uh, uh, unlike in the past, now like I have mentioned that there are a lot of people who are looking at imports, whereas there are a lot of exporters who want to export, but matching the both interests together would be the difficult task. But unlike in the past, now there are a lot of ways that you can connect with the importers and your market entry, the way that you want to enter the market. You can contact rather easier ways than in the past. So it is export is not difficult, as long as if your approach is correct. So we are here, the Department of Commerce and the Export Development Board. We are working very closely in our efforts to enhance your exports, so that we are here to help you throughout. And please do contact the Department of Commerce or myself, and we are here and we are ready to extend all possible assistance from our end. Not only me from here overseeing our foreign commercial representation abroad, and all our officers stationed in these overseas countries that I have mentioned are ready to extend all possible assistance assistance in helping you to make your dream of exporting a reality. And thank you very much, and please do contact if you need any further details. Thank you.
It's very interesting, Mr. Charita. So there are a number of questions to discuss, but with the time limits, we try to pick up some relevant and important, some simple questions. We believe that they are common. And one Mr. Nandasena is asking, appointing a distributor is fine, but how to find a credible distributor is the question. And is there any way to approach? Just to elaborate, he was asking.
Well, that's a good question. Now, there are various ways that you can look at, and if like I have to tell you that it is very difficult to assess some of these importers, as you all know. But still, we can look at to which country, with which parties that they are entered into, or rather, if you look at that distributor, you can find out what are the other parties that that particular distributor is importing from. So that's one criteria, and we have to look at how that particular distributor is performing in the market. You can find out this information through various ways, and of course, if one of our officers are there, you can check with our officer also as to find out further details. But there's no way that we can find out exactly 100% whether like whether that dispute is 100% okay or not. But generally, by looking at with what parties that they are working and how long, and that in some countries we can get that reports called credit worthiness. Like 2 chambers is some fee you have to pay. You have to look at these things also. If you are looking at these things, like you can maybe you can avail that facility by paying a small amount of fee. In some cases, some websites having facility for that. So you can look at and see the credentials of that particular distributor. So I think that's the way that we can check. But beyond that, I mean, nobody can exactly assure this that's 100% fine. But I mean, you can sense after finding out this information. I mean, it's safe to deal with such such party after having obtained those required details.
Thanks, Sharita. Another one Mr. Merrill is asking, most of the mentioned methods are quite difficult for SMEs because his concern is about the SME sector, who are collecting from different places and the spices and all. Then he was asking, uh, what are the easiest and credible way to find a buyer for an SME?
Well, SME sector is one of the very important sectors in the country. There are a lot of government programs. I know that even the Export Development Board is doing quite a lot in developing those SME sectors. Now we know that like participating in trade fairs on regular basis would be one of the most cost-effective and effective way of finding buyers. Now for the SMEs, I know that the government has given a lot of incentives, particularly Export Development Board is also giving concessions, various concessions for them to participate without charging full amount and all that. And we are working closely with them. Even the foreign countries also, we also pay special attention when they come over there, and even at a lower, like even for some cases, even if they cannot participate in trade fairs, still they can visit those trade fairs to meet some importers and so on. So that's the way that they can meet and discuss as how to link up with these importers concerned. So even without paying money, also, like without bearing a lot of expenses, there are a lot of ways that you can meet prospective importers in the market. And of course, we reckon the important role that SME sector is playing, and there are a lot of programs are being launched to help them. And I think there are a lot of new things will also come up with the new government for the SME sector. So that's one of the very important sectors that we have really helped in serving their requirements.
Okay, Charita. This is one of my questions that by going through the questions that our participants raised, one observed thing is, the majority of the buyers are sometimes coming to us, some inquiries from different sources, and we are getting the buyers information from different sources, emails, databases, and other agents. So that is another way, other than going to the finding buyers. So how if we find a buyer, someone find a X buyer X, how the Department of Commerce, your
I didn't get you exactly, Kirti. Hello?
Mr. Charita,
Yeah, I could not hear you.
have you? Yeah,
Now
the one way. Okay, the question is that we are usually the finding buyers, but the other way is some buyers we are getting from different sources, emails, some databases, some institutions, agents, and all. So if we find a buyer without meeting them, if is there any mechanism of the DOC to help the exporters to recognize those buyers are credible or reliable, or whether they are existing or active in some way?
well, it's like this now. Like if you look at now, when we are stationed in a country, in fact, last I was in Dubai, I know that like not only in Dubai, everywhere in the world, even in Sri Lanka, there are some unreliable buyers, maybe due to various reasons. But you can't go by that believing that everybody is bad. In fact, finding whether this particular importer is good or bad is not that easy. Only way we have to look at is like now, for an example, if I ask you like how many companies are registered under the Export Development Board, but if I ask you whether you can tell me whether this company is good and all, based on the export statistics. But we can find out some of the details, but some of these details are not in the public domain. For example, we like how much that these companies exports and all are not in the public, or rather amount of imports and all are not in the public domain. So very difficult to find out some of this information, because I myself know about it, being a commercial diplomat serving many countries. So difficulty sometimes we face is to find out some information. Only way is sometimes we have to find out sometimes from this importer itself how much that they import and from whom that they import and all that. But someone it's very clear, because we know some major ones are in the market that we know, like we know in the market these are famous ones. Generally, when you are in the market for a particular period of time, the reliable ones. We can off the cup mention these importers are fine, but there are some small ones, SMEs. Sometimes we can't really like we cannot really guarantee whether these are good importers. So uh, my way of dealing with them is that always we have to take precautionary action. So you should not go for risky payment methods. We always have to follow safe payment methods, because I have come across number of trade complaints also in many countries, in Dubai, in Paris, in Korea, because now like bad type of businessmen are everywhere in the world, no matter it's a developed country or developing country, so it happened in both ways. But you have to protect your territory. It's the best way to handle it, because I mean there's no universal theory that we can recommend in recommending import. It's very difficult thing. Even if somebody asks me like a report about the General Motors, we all know it's one of the largest companies in the world, but we don't know exactly what is the situation at present in the company, whether they are doing well and all that. That the information are confining to them, so nobody can exactly guarantee about their credentials. But we have to be like the export has to be always cautious in his dealings, and always safeguard his interests by adapting sort of protective payment way. I think would be the best way to deal with.
Okay, we will take another two questions. Uh, One is that there is a double question. Really, one is to EDB. We can also address. Other one is, I think, one that part you can answer to the one. Mr. Rajiv De Silva asking: are there any successful e-commerce sites in Sri Lanka, like Alibaba? Uh, I can answer for this on behalf of our IT team. EDB has a e-commerce platform, SriLankaBusiness.com. That in Mr. Rajiv can contact our IT division, Export Development Board, and get some more information on this. And the second part is to you, Charika. What is the minimum value addition to obtain Sri Lanka COO certification, country of origin certificate?
Country of origin for what? It was not clear to me.
What is the minimum value addition to obtain Sri Lanka country of origin certificate?
All right. It depends on the product and the sorry. It depends on the country. So, for an example, in the case of India and Pakistan, it's 35% value addition. So, based on the trade agreement, like I have mentioned in my presentation, there are three broad areas of fulfilling rules of origin criteria. One we call, like, the first category is wholly obtained. Particularly, those agricultural products has to fully grown in Sri Lanka, right? And secondly, it's called value addition criteria, under the Indo Sri Lanka Free Trade Agreement and the Pakistan Free Trade Agreement is 35% value addition. That's the normal the amount that we are looking for. Apart from that value addition, there are some two other rules also to be met. We call transformation. In the case of Indo Sri Lanka Free Trade Agreement and in the case of Indo Sri Lanka Free Trade Agreement, that the product has to transform in 4-digit level, or rather, for an example, if you import any product, anything outside 0401, at least it has to change by the last digit or 4-digit level, right? It's a technical thing that I'm trying to briefly explain. So at least for 4-digit level, it has to change. But in the case of Pakistan, it's 6-digit level. So in short, generally value addition is about 35%. And for the transformation, we have to look at as how, like, what is under which category it qualifies, and our team of officers will be like can help in identify particular this thing. So he can even contact me, or I will direct him to the division of the rules of origin to answer some specific questions related to a specific product that he is looking for. So we can help him in providing exact information on that.
Okay, Mr. Rajiv, I think he got the answer. And then another, I think this is the last question. We can answer for this really. The one Mr. Harsha, he was asking PayPal, what is the situation, and they like to know about the PayPal. Really, the EDB is working towards getting that facility to Sri Lanka. Really, we are working with the central bank and the private sector as well, and all the other government institutions are helping the EDB to move forward. So I think there are some positive answers from the PayPal. Hope we will come up with a good positive solution maybe after October. Hoping that wish. And Mr. Charita, that if you have anything in addition to what you have discussed and what you have answered, do you have anything special to say about our participants on in this time how they should manage to find, or any special attention to go for new buyers or the new products or something like this?
Well, that's another good question, I reckon, because the thing is now we are facing a different situation the world never has faced before. In fact, last 6 months period is sort of a very challenging period for everyone, not only the export business, but to the travel industry and many other industries. So this will change the global landscape of trade and commerce. So, but one thing I can tell, in fact, whatever the circumstances, that there's no way that the importance of export will diminish. Rather, it will emerge in a bigger way than it was, because like no country in the world is self-sufficient under the given circumstances. So that there's like all the countries have to depend each other in different requirements. So that that's number one. Number two is the size of the country doesn't matter. What matters is how specialized are in our exports. Now, if you look at a Japanese car, like there are different components. Now, it's difficult for them to call it's a Japanese car, because now there are different components from different places. So now the world is simply approaching borderless world, where the specialty of certain areas dominate in the field. So we should not think that we are a small country. We always have expertise in different areas, which we have to work on, in particular in that niches, so that we have a special advantage. And in addition to the challenges that posed by the COVID-19, it will certainly gives a lot of opportunities also, so that we have to grab on these opportunities as to see and how we are going to develop. And unlike earlier, there are a lot of webinars and things are happening without visiting those foreign countries. So please make use of those opportunities those virtual platforms, or rather online platforms, whenever possible, for the interested exporters to see and meet those partners, import partners. And I think the meeting right partner is very, very important. So when it comes to export, what matters is correct product at a correct place in correct prices. Correct price would be the uh, would would be the way to go forward. So networking is a very, very important point in finding prospective importers and all other parties that they can enter into. So please make use of new ways, particularly online platforms and so on, in finding buyers. And of course, whenever that you want, we can contact us and our officers, as I told you, in 28 countries. And we are here to help you in building you all. And of course, once again, I wanted to thank you for your valuable contribution towards the country, and we are here to help you to build you more. And thank you for participating, and we'll keep in touch in the future for whatever the requirement that you want from our end.
Okay, Charita, really it is my duty to conclude this. Now the time is over. We have spent little more time, but there are some questions, dear participants, that we wish that we will answer to all your questions in a possible way with the support of Mr. Charita and the EDB staff. And really we are happy to have you for even this 14th webinar today. I can appreciate that the participants also, the increasing number of the participation says us good results and the good stories, because this is important. And Mr. Charita Yattogoda, the director of the Commerce Trade Promotion Division, I have to say a big thank to you and your Director General for giving us and sharing with us your valuable time and the expertise, your experience, knowledge, and all for the country and the betterment of the export community. So hoping to have another webinar by the next week, next Thursday at the same time. Again, thank you very much, participants and Mr. Charita, for the support given. Thank you very much. See you then next week.
Thank you.